Okay, so let's see what I can do here. So I actually wanted to talk about something completely unrelated to screen recorders in general. I wanted to talk about lung cancer and why I think that's so important. So basically, you got your pulmonary system, right? Which is your lungs. And so, like, air actually goes down your trachea and then goes into your lungs like this, right? And so your diaphragm, which the blood supply is supplied by the heart, it contracts your lungs, expanding them, which sucks in air through your trachea. So this is one image, but there are other better images out here of your lungs. Alright, so yeah. So this is your trachea, right? And then so air goes in through these like little tubes, and all the way at the end you have these sacs called alveoli, and then your alveoli, well, I don't know about this picture, but basically, like, it's connected. It wraps back around, connected by your blood vessels. So this is your alveoli that comes in from your trachea, and then your blood vessels wrap around it and connect your alveoli. And so you have your blue and red, which is kind of like your in and out. So the blood comes. Oh, okay, so here. So the blood gets pumped in, that is deoxygenated, is blue, and then gets pumped out, which is oxygenated, which is red. So that's like the short and simple of it. So if you breathe smoke into your lungs, you get smoke coming in your alveoli. So it goes in the whole way, and you could fuck up your heart this way too. So let's take a look at your heart. So yeah, here's your heart, right? And so these are the tubes that connect to it. So those tubes are directly connected to your lungs. So, and yeah, they're all very close together, but it's a little bit longer of a system. But if you breathe in consistently over the course of 4 years, you will fuck up your heart in some way or another. And the way by doing that is more than just smoke. So smoke goes into your lungs and destroys your lungs, right? Again, I'm just looking up the lungs here. So smoke goes into your lungs, destroys the inner workings of your trachea, and then the chemicals from that smoke get absorbed into your bloodstream and get pumped through your heart. So the reason why you feel a high from nicotine or weed is because of those chemicals. It's not because of the smoke, right? So then it goes through your heart, it gets pumped through your heart, and then you might have some, like, those chemicals get pumped through your heart. So it's not just blood anymore that's being pumped through your heart, it's other things. Also, it's not just blood that is pumped through your heart, so your diet actually does have a lot to do with this. So I would call it the stomach-heart connection, but it's more complicated than just your stomach and your heart, right? So this is a good image, actually. So here's your heart, and then this is your esophagus, and then it goes into your stomach, and your heart actually gets supplied like lots of different nutrients, not just from nutrients being pulled by your digestive tract, but by other things as well. So if I can find it. Okay, so I looked up stomach-heart connection, and this is a good image here. It shows all these little lines, and then your diaphragm. Look, your diaphragm is right here. That's cool. and then your gastric plexus or something, which is again just going into your stomach. Okay, hold up. Intestinal heart. Alright, so yeah, I was gonna cut it, but actually here it is, right here. So this is your hepatic portal. That's what it's called, but is all it is like nutrients. So your heart pumps, and then nutrients. So I think it's just red veins here, but here's a good image of your hepatic portal. So yeah, heart gets pumped up from your heart, and so you don't want to just take the nutrients in, you filter it through your liver, so you get a lot of glucose and stuff. So you don't just pump glucose through your heart, and so it gets processed through your liver, but things that get processed through your liver end up turning into your blood anyways, and even though it gets processed through your liver, it still ends up going to your heart. Your heart pumps all your blood, right? So if you are constantly digesting things with at more glucose than you need, then that's what will happen. This is a really good picture, actually. Yeah, so pretty interesting stuff there. This is neat. This is a really good picture. So yeah, your and also your gut biome definitely has to do with seasonal depression. This could be possible. So if you're eating healthy, and if you're eating a lot, your gut should be telling you that it likes you. Sometimes your gut will kind of like, for me at least, for a long time, I was eating like things with lots of protein in it, right? And protein is it's okay, but if you actually eat too much protein, your gut will tell you that you actually have an excess amount of protein by the way it works. So you kind of, in a way, should always be hungry, which kind of sucks, but it's true. Eat healthy. It's very important. That's all I can recommend to people who don't smoke, is to eat healthy. And if you do smoke, then eat healthy, because that is very important. And if you're trying to quit smoking, then God bless. I wish you luck. So yeah, yeah, that is what my science lesson for today was about. I wonder how 8 minutes, not too bad. Yeah. So I'm just gonna add like a couple extra stuff here, and what I was thinking was that like, so heart conditions can sometimes be related but unrelated to like smoking. So like, if you have diabetes because you just have a really, really terrible diet, and that sucks. If you have diabetes, you're probably taking insulin. I'm literally drawing a needle. I used to do this to explain physics concepts to my friend in school. Yeah, so like, basically, you're taking insulin, which is like a very raw chemical form, and then you're just injecting it into your liver or your bloodstream. And then it gets pumped through your bloodstream and helps you process sugars. No matter what, insulin is just process. It's just like a sugar processing thing. It's actually like so safe. It's crazy. It's like $150 or something. If you have diabetes, you need it. Which kind of sucks, but like, yeah. So like, you could have diabetes, and that would affect your heart in certain ways. But you could also have heart disease or lung disease. So if your lungs have one of your trachea is damaged and doesn't have a supply of blood flow, because I think your trachea, so the supply of blood flow from your trachea comes from your veins. So that's your input vein and your output vein. Well, say your output vein is damaged, which would very rarely happen, but say it is somehow, then blood goes into your trachea. Bunch of blood and chemicals, or not your trachea, your alveoli. So like, you have air coming into your alveoli, which is kind of the way, it's like the system of like protection. So that is good. So that is like number one. But you also have this supply of blood that's going to your trachea, but it gets pulled from your output. So I guess it doesn't really make much sense. But say you have an input that is damaged, then you have a limited supply of blood here, and an amount of blood that is required from your output, and it will all end up balancing out. But whatever the case may be, these are living cells, and they may get damaged. And if they get damaged beyond a point where they're repaired, then they're kind of diseased. And so your body will, to an extent, it will, like, repair that. And so that's what permanent lung damage is, basically. Is if you have somehow managed to mess up every single one of the cells in here, that this trachea, this whole unit of existence just like is gone, and you don't have that left, then you've probably smoked enough to where your heart is probably damaged from all the chemicals that you use from doing drugs. So drugs are kind of bad. I don't know. Drugs are pretty bad. There's a video on YouTube. Let's see if I can find it. Of this guy going into East Hastings area, and he calls it the Hollywood. But if you look at travel videos, it's better. East Hastings, Disneyland. Okay, so Tyler Oliveira. This was done 2 weeks ago, where he goes into East Hastings in Vancouver, and he asks,
This is Vancouver, British Columbia, the epicenter of Canada's overdose epidemic, and where drug addicts come to die.
I can buy my fentanyl right off my doctor. And I've been smoking crack all.
And so he just does this for 26 minutes. Just talks to people in East Hastings for 26 minutes. And they're all hunched over and dying. It sucks. Really puts that into perspective, honestly. And this guy here, he is a what is he? Here, let's see.
Pessimistic that this is not going to work. People are not going to change.
Oh yeah. He's like he probably got to start as a career as maybe I don't think it was the medical field, but I think he was like a helper, or what's it called, like a social worker and stuff. So he was explaining general things about reinstating like people into like real life by giving them houses and putting them in like communities that like already exist. And the way that if you are a drug user, that that if you try to continue to do it, then it will be more difficult, because you'll have a community presence which basically just says like, hey man, like we just like drugs are bad. If you do that in our complex, we might report you. So that's already one. So you have to hide it from them, and it just becomes difficult. Doing drugs becomes difficult. If you're watching a video about this, then you can probably be doing drugs. You just can't be living in one of those houses. Anyways, I have to put my dog out, but that basically kind of sums up what I was thinking. So I'm going to recap a little bit, and then I'm just going to go to Google Earth, because Google Earth is fun. The healthcare system has a couple things that are important. So doctors have to do a minimum of 8 years. Registered nurses actually have to do a minimum of 4 years. So for taking an education in the healthcare system, it's very difficult and strenuous and stressful, and in general, just a hard thing to do. But there are literally so many people doing this. It is, it is just commendable and respectable, and it's great. The healthcare system in Canada is a slow and long process. If you actually have health problems, like you're gonna die, that sucks. Which is not what I wanted to talk about. All I wanted to talk about was that there are different types of antibiotics, and that if you get prescribed the wrong one, that's bad. So there are antibiotics for things like acne, which is probably the best thing you actually could get antibiotics for, because acne is considered an infection. And I also wrote down ear infection. You can get an ear infection, but you can also get antibiotics for like literally anything. But you just shouldn't, because they can create a immunity problem with you. If you take too many, then that's what happens. So they make them really specific, and they can also make you sick. Antibiotics can also make you sick, but like, that's the thing. People in the healthcare field, like, they take care of that. So if you go there and you get prescribed things like Advil, then maybe you have a sort of ongoing problem. But like, so there are so many different sectors of it. Like, there's like massage therapy, which is independent of registered clinicians, which is actually honestly equally, if not more important. But then there's also things like cardiology, whatever, blah blah blah. There's all those aspects of the healthcare field, but then there's aspects of the healthcare field that are related to recovery, which is like I don't know, orthopedics or whatever. Orthopedics, I guess, might be technically related to recovery if you have a certain situation like that, but really orthopedics, I talked about this, that was just kind of interesting, is if you have a extra bone in your foot, then you'll get recommended orthopedics, and it's really important to be healthy. And you could also have antibiotics for your eyes, probably. But let's just go to this fun thing that I was thinking about. So I live right here in Vancouver, and so there's like a bunch of automotive shops like this way, but there's a hospital right here. There's a hospital right here. Oh my god. So there's a hospital right here, and then there's a hospital right here. And the hospital right here is predominantly for like people in downtown, because downtown is supposed to be a very big thing, but in reality downtown is actually on the good days not very busy. This is where people who live in the entire vicinity of Vancouver are supposed to go. And then there's Burnaby Hospital right here, so it gets very busy because there's thousands, there's probably 1 million people who live in this area, like 1 million people. So it's a very densely populated city. And there's going to be a hospital built right here. So there's a hospital right here, and there's going to be a hospital built right here. I don't know, somewhere here. And then we've got this whole strip of area dedicated to Hastings, which I talked about earlier. This guy who goes into Hastings and looks at people and talks to people. And one of the stories from this lady in a wheelchair is that she, you know, was born. That's the thing about people who might live in Hastings, is that there's a lot of people who live in Hastings who have lived there since they were born, and they've watched Vancouver change, because I mean, the truth of it is that yeah, Vancouver has gone through so much industrialization that construction doesn't pay attention to this, and just in general there's not a lot of attention being paid to it. So we are constructing a hospital here, which is long overdue, because we have problems like here, going up like that, and then it stops here because this is Granville Island. No, this is Granville Island. This is Vancouver Harbor, and then in here you got, and then in Vancouver Harbor, yeah, that's the thing. In Vancouver Harbor, you actually have Chinatown, and then in Chinatown you have lots of licensed doctors who have been practicing for 30 years. I went to one, and he was so nice. Like, he was a genuinely good guy, and he was right, I want to say he was right here. This is an area where there's lots of doctors, and so you see where the general sort of difference is, where Hastings exists in this place. So this is where the doctor is, and then Hastings is like here. Like, yeah, very sad. I don't know, I was gonna go to a different country, but I was thinking about going to Calgary, so yeah, Calgary is over here. Calgary is like this area where, I mean, there's just like this crazy, it's just like the environment is so much different than a place like Vancouver, just the nature of this place. And there, you know, and there's not just homeless people in East Hastings, there's homeless people everywhere. And the nature of being homeless is that the being outdoorsy is not sad at all, but the fact that drugs are very easily accessible makes it very dangerous because of the drugs. It makes it dangerous because of the drugs. Drugs in general are dangerous. I'm kind of feeling like I'm turning into an advocate. Personally, I was like basically addicted to drugs, so that's why I say that. But like yeah, so there's so many different places in the world. You don't have to live here. You can live in Saskatchewan. Even like Canada is just such a huge country. Yeah, this is where they filmed Trailer Park Boys. Right here. But yeah, just imagine living on a place like this. This would just be insane. Or living here in Greenland. Doesn't look that green to me. We're living, yeah, you got polar bears here, man. We're living in Alaska, you know. It's amazing. We're living here. That would be great. You got Davis's station. Let's see. Davis's station. Maybe a research facility in Antarctica. There's no Street View data. Just this huge place that exists in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Where things like penguins live. Penguins live here. It's crazy. And it's just tiny. Or you could live in like Mexico, or Africa, or Asia. This is Asia. You want to live here? Very big place. Wowzers. Bruh. There's so much stuff. Yep. Okay. I feel like that'll be it